This is Minneapolis, an inspiring city to visit, an exhilarating city to live in, opulent with natural beauty, affluent in commerce and industry, but most of all, rich in resourceful, dynamic people. Minneapolis, like most mid-American cities, was born in the path of the Great Trek West, first as lucrative fur trading territory, then in the early 1800s, the site of Fort Snelling. Prophetically, the first structure was a mill, utilizing St. Anthony Falls water power to saw lumber for buildings and to grind grain for its troops. By the end of the 19th century, the natural abundance of water power, timber, and fertile land had made Minneapolis the gateway to timber, mining, and agricultural riches of the upper Midwest. In this favorable climate, industries took root and grew to international scope. In the 1920s and 30s, Minneapolis was forceful and healthy, well-fed and self-satisfied, only barely aware of America's changing urban patterns. At the close of World War II, a handful of prudent people looked about Minneapolis, first with concern and then with resolution. Older areas had been quietly aging. As people's needs changed, outgrown buildings and neglected neighborhoods had been left to doze and crumble. It was time to get busy, and the people of Minneapolis did. Alerted civic groups, businessmen, labor, contracting and real estate firms, public officials, lawyers, architects, planners, and plucky citizens listened and looked. They joined hands for citywide reevaluation and renewal. The Minneapolis Housing and Redevelopment Authority studied an arrested subdivision of high clay hills and swamp. This area could be reclaimed, made productive. The hills were bulldozed into the swamps. 92 new homes emerged, and the high-low project produced a potent discovery. Redevelopment can bring healthy economic return. The city of Minneapolis annually receives 110% of its investment from once forgotten land. Inspired by high-low, Minneapolitans resolutely turned to tawdry, wasted Glenwood. Could public determination remodel a mammoth example of blight? At inception, the Minneapolis-Glenwood project was one of America's largest renewal efforts. Today, Glenwood contains 800 units of much-needed low-rent public housing, 400 units of private housing, a $1 million shopping center, a new fire station, a major addition to its adjacent school, and 17 acres of light manufacturing plants and offices. The people of Minneapolis determined to improve housing for the growing number of elderly citizens. Pinpointing pockets of blight, they went to work, replacing them with nearly 2,000 units of dignified, modern, low-rent living space. In downtown, the city's heart, gripping new problems had become evident. With the mass exodus to the suburbs and resultant dislocation of shopping, banking, business, and entertainment centers, downtown Minneapolis now faced an even greater hazard: the relocation of major office headquarters. Several of these cities' giant firms had already chosen the green grass and rolling hills at the city's edge, taking hundreds of employees out of downtown and leaving empty offices behind. Would blight and abandonment be allowed to overtake the city center? Shocked citizens shouted no. Spurred by the newly formed Minneapolis Downtown Council, the Chamber of Commerce, labor groups, and other organizations, downtown's public and private interests banded together to bring about rebirth. The spirit of progress is healthy and infectious. A leading downtown bank commissioned a spectacular 29-story building and a spacious outdoor plaza. Another bank doubled in size. And another leading bank combined its expansion with downtown's new multi-million-dollar North Star Center, a full city block complex with headquarters offices for 3 of the world's largest milling firms, 2 other famous Minneapolis industrial corporations, and countless smaller offices and shops. North Star also houses one of the magnificent new downtown Minneapolis hotels, today tempting visitors with swimming, skating, parking, luxury dining, and skytop lounging. A new $10 million hotel at downtown's Gateway and other handsome new motor hotels were built elsewhere downtown. Sparked by this building boom, traditional Minneapolis hotels added floors, parking ramps, swimming pools, new lobbies, and meeting and dining facilities. Rejuvenation was achieved through flowers and trees. Downtowners responded at once. One beauty-conscious company produced a tranquil sunken garden. Downtown's gigantic show of faith was motivated by another major renewal project of almost overwhelming size. Could Minneapolitans level and completely rebuild 35 acres of the downtown area? Once the Minneapolis Gateway area had been a pioneering community's retail, banking, and culture center. Now it had become Skid Row, teeming with flop houses, bars, and decay. For 50 years, its redevelopment had been discussed and termed insurmountable. The people geared themselves to topple decadence and bring total newness to 40% of downtown Minneapolis. Local and federal government, business and labor, public and private enterprise, and aroused citizens got busy. Soon the new public health building, the State Department of Employment and Security building, the Minneapolis Public Library, and the federal court building rose as inspiring cornerstones to Gateway's renewal. Delighted employees moved into the new IBM building. Shortly, construction followed on the Pure Food and Drug building, Northern States Power building, Yamasaki-designed Northwestern National Life building, plus new specialty shops, restaurants, and plazas, and 1,500 new units of high-rise apartment living, plus a shopping center overlooking the river and old St. Anthony Falls. Starting at Gateway Center, a reborn Nicollet Avenue will welcome shoppers from Canada and the upper Midwest. Long known as our Fifth Avenue, Nicollet will rival its Manhattan counterpart in contemporary beauty as merchants, business, and civic leaders transform downtown's fashion thoroughfare to a flower and tree-dotted pedestrian mall. The Minneapolis Auditorium had grown outdated too. Business and government leaders traveled to other cities, made comparisons and studies, and commissioned plans for a $13 million expansion, providing modern exposition space close to hotels, shopping, and entertainment. But brick, mortar, and drafting boards alone cannot produce a great city. This is the work of people, intelligent, forceful, far-sighted, and well-educated. Our people intend that future Minneapolitans will remain strong in knowledge and opportunity. In the midst of Minneapolis renewal, citizens examined the city's aging public schools. Climaxing their studies with action, they voted a multi-million-dollar program, an orderly overall plan for realignment of present facilities, rebuilding where practical, and reconstruction where needed. Belief in higher education is evidenced by the particularly high national level of intelligence here. Much of our major industrial strength lies in the scientific, engineering, medical, legal, financial, and business acumen from the high-quality colleges and universities that flourish in the Minneapolis area. Over 30,000 students annually attend the University of Minnesota on the banks of the Mississippi. The eyes of the world have focused on Minnesota's medical campus, where open-heart surgery was pioneered. Ever concerned with the contemporary needs of all citizens, the people of Minneapolis contributed millions of dollars for citywide expansion of hospital facilities. A vigorous, purposeful people must enjoy free, efficient movement. Public and private interests cooperated in plans, studies, and construction of the new freeway network to serve ever-growing traffic demands. Together with St. Paul on the Great Circle route to the Orient, Minneapolis cooperated to expand international airport facilities and construct a spacious new terminal. Close to the site of the city's core, two recently completed river locks connect industry with the 2,500-mile barge route to the south. As Minneapolis moves ahead, careful planning is the key to better environment. The city's zoning ordinance dated back to 1924. With the ever-increasing number of vehicles, expanded residential needs, and thousands of new stores and offices, new zoning codes were imperative. 5 years of study produced the new zoning ordinance, a plan for orderliness geared to changing city patterns. A citywide community renewal study based on needs of citizens of tomorrow has been prepared by Minneapolitans. Step by step, each sector of the city was studied, its needs carefully reviewed, and the decisions made by the people. These same eager, fun-loving citizens annually host more than 1 million visitors to the Aquatennial, America's greatest summer festival. Symbol of team effort for over a quarter century, it is produced by over 2,000 Minneapolitans who plan and participate in 200 Aquatennial events. Minneapolis is a year-round vacation land, ideal for summer and winter sports. And our city is gateway to northern Minnesota, just a scenic motor drive from tall pines, shimmering waters of over 10,000 lakes. Less than an hour after leaving Minneapolis, one may be landing a walleye in clear, cool Minnesota lakes. The people of Minneapolis are also avid sports enthusiasts. Teamwork, the unceasing effort and faith of hundreds of Minneapolis firms and thousands of citizens built Metropolitan Stadium and brought Major League sports here. The Minnesota Twins and the Minnesota Vikings bring millions of visitors to cheer and enjoy Minneapolis hotels, supper clubs, and theaters, and shop in Minneapolis stores. This well-rounded good living in Minneapolis is reflected in broad streets and fine homes, encircling 11 lakes and 154 parks, 1 acre of grass, trees, and playground for every 84 persons. Minneapolitan strong religious faiths have resulted in construction of many of America's most beautiful edifices and brought to Minneapolis another proud title, City of Churches. Northrop Auditorium on the university campus is home of the world-renowned Minneapolis Symphony Orchestra, sponsored and supported by our people. Northrop also hosts the University Artist Course and the Metropolitan Opera Company, which makes one of just 5 outside Manhattan appearances in our culture-conscious city. They enthusiastically support Theater in the Round, the Old Log Theater, a full-time children's theater, a season of top Broadway shows, and 13 community theaters. When Tyrone Guthrie looked for a site for a repertory theater in a community eager for the uplift of fine dramatic art, he found bold, creative imagination and heartwarming response. The same Minneapolis spirit which had cleared slums and rejuvenated giant city sections now raised funds and generated enthusiasm for a new, unshackled concept of theater. All America applauded as the Tyrone Guthrie Theater emerged, adjacent to the Walker Arts Center, a nationally famous symbol of the ready acceptance of the arts in Minneapolis. Our people are proud of the impressive Minneapolis Institute of Art and its fully accredited school, the University Art Gallery, and the American-Swedish Institute. This is Minneapolis, an all-America city, where people progress together. The 1963 All-America City Award was presented to Minneapolis by the National Municipal League and Look magazine, who cited our major urban renewal programs, efforts to improve human relations, and better housing for the elderly. For the thousands who sponsored the Minneapolis Reawakening, their monument is the city itself, vital, vigorous, beautiful, ever advancing. We invite you to share in the pride, pleasure, good living, and good business of Minneapolis, the city in touch with tomorrow.